Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Niall. And Kyle, it's such a week this week for us.
It's so true.
UFO discourse is in the air.
It's
we haven't really talked about the whole thing. How do you think the world is ready to have their minds blown by the government having a hearing where a guy says aliens exist?
Oh my God. I try to limit who I follow on social media who is, oh my God, disclosure's real, the aliens exist. I try to avoid that, but every time I dip into that corner of the internet and see what those people are saying, I am thinking, no, Niall, we are not prepared for people to start crawling out of the woodwork and saying disclosure is happening, that aliens exist. It's a bad look. I'll say it. It's a bad look.
It's a weird time to be a conspiracy podcast because this stuff is very out in the world, and I especially with the bent we've taken lately with all the Benowitz stuff and everything about using disclosure as a smokescreen tactic and stuff. It's a very weird time to be into UFOs.
Yeah, and somebody online on Twitter put it. I will never call it X, by the way, despite what jokes I make on the show. Somebody on Twitter put it in a very succinct way, which is they're Paul Benowitzing the public at large.
Yeah.
I imagine, but here's the thing. We are so inundated with people who are sort of in the same mindset as Paul Benowitz now. And they're so present online and stuff like that it's will we notice that much? I don't know, but maybe there will be more people like that. Who knows? But it's that's already such a vocal contingent of UFOs and stuff that I don't know where I'm going with this other than it makes me nervous.
The only thing that these hearings have actually done is make everyone's opinions louder. That's the only thing that's happened so far, is everyone on either side on any side of these issues is just louder about it now and more assured of whatever they believed in to begin with, and it has nothing to do with the actual it's a mess.
Yeah, and there is I was listening to another podcast, The Saucer Life. Now, I don't usually make a point of bringing up other podcasts on our show, but as far as that one's concerned, I think if you like what we do, you would enjoy The Saucer Life, and ultimately you should be listening to both podcasts. Us first, we take primacy every time, right? But
yep.
Saucer Life, you can go ahead and dabble in that as well. But no, for real, I was listening to The Saucer Life, and somebody sent in a question to the host about would people, if they were given the opportunity, take the deal? What would people in the UFO community take the deal that Bill Moore was offered? If you buy fully into his story, because of course there's a lot of he was a double agent or whatever. He's there's a lot of different, theories, but if you take what he's saying as true, that he believed that he was going to be privy to genuine secret information about UFOs, in exchange for his disseminating disinfo, would you take that deal?
Mm-hmm.
And what the host and the people that were like sending in questions kind of brought up was like, who wouldn't take that deal in the community? It seems like most people would. And that's kind of the point, right? Like, I feel like beyond just like, let me put it this way. I feel like whatever it was the Paul Benowitz situation was trying to accomplish, like what the U.S. Air Force and whatever the goal was there, I feel like it's almost sort of like happening without much intervention now. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just has spiraled out of control, and people sort of just naturally slot into becoming these like disinfo agents is a strong word, but so I think that it's a forever problem. We went into this. It's a forever problem with UFOs now, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's fucking weird reading about this stuff now. And like, I know this isn't what people want to hear, but sorry, I don't think aliens are visiting us, and I don't know. It's a fun way to start the episode.
Cutting deep lines in the sand here to start off the episode. All right.
I am. I follow a handful of people in the UFO community who are just infinitely credulous. Like they kind of like, and it's just to see what they're saying about this stuff, because I'm curious what they think. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to name names or anything, but whenever I see them posting about, the stuff that's coming out about Groosh, and like maybe a month or so ago, Lou Elizondo. It's like I just don't. There's no evidence whatsoever. There won't be evidence, and that's just the cycle over and over. This is how it's going to go forever. Yep. Anyways, I don't need to prattle on about that shit, but it is interesting. Maybe we'll have to do an episode about this hot button issue in the UFO community, but not at the moment, because Niall.
Yeah, what are we talking about this week for real?
Niall, this week I found myself looking at pictures of cool bugs.
Okay, definitely not. Okay, actually, I was about to say I haven't done that as much recent. I don't really do that a lot, but I have done something bug adjacent, which I might bring up in a second. But go ahead. What are we doing?
Well, I mean, my favorite bug, and maybe you have a favorite. I'm going to ask you, do you have a favorite bug?
Not like, no, not really. I respect bugs and their place in the environment, but I'm not like a bug hound. But I will say, I got really into Kamen Rider now. Yeah, that's my newest thing. I watched Shin Kamen Rider like a little bit ago, and now I've watched like 16 to 18 hours of Kamen Rider content of the different shows and movies and shit over the past like week and a half. And most of those masks are based on bugs. The original one being like a grasshopper, if I'm correct. I forget. I
think so.
Like,
yeah.
So right now, I guess I'll go with whatever bug the original Kamen Rider mask is based on.
See, Kamen Rider is a thing that I am surprised that at my age and the amount of time I have spent in, the weeb anime community and being a huge fan of Hideaki Anno's work, how I have not watched Kamen Rider, I don't know. Maybe this Shin Kamen Rider movie, when I finally see it, will completely flip my world.
It's on Amazon Prime for anyone who's interested and hasn't seen it yet right now. You just have to look up Shin Masked Rider because they translated the title for some reason. Movie's fucking great. It's my number 2 movie of the year after Asteroid City currently, and I absolutely love it.
That's such a. I really got to check it out, and I'm just. I've always been curious about Kamen Rider, but it was one of those things that was sort of daunting to try and get into because it's like,
oh, it makes no fucking sense. There's a new series like every year, and
yeah,
they're kind of tied together by crossover films. Like I've watched like hours of video essays detailing the history of Kamen Rider at this point, so I could get into it, but it is an absolute mess. That most of the stuff isn't available in the U.S. anyway, and you have to like torrent it and shit. So
yeah, but I'm very interested in tokusatsu stuff. I gotta check it out. And you know that does lead to insects.
Oh, yeah,
I
bugs.
am
That's
a
what we're
big
talking
fan of bugs. You know, here's the thing. Here's the sort of line I draw on the sand, right? With bugs is like, if you're not a bug that's looking to bite or sting me, then I'm cool with you. I am 100% cool with those bugs. It's why, and we're not talking about spiders, Niall. I promise that's not happening today. But it's why there are certain kinds of spiders that I'm just like, oh, that's totally chill. Like if I know, like a jumping spider, no problem with jumping spiders. If it's something that can bite me, I'm not interested.
see, the words "jumping spider" next to each other triggers my fight or flight response.
Sorry.
So
Sorry.
I'm no, you're good. I just am. It's not that I don't think spiders are good for things. They just scare me.
They just freak you out. No, that's totally fair. There are certain things. I mean, there are certain things that freak me out too, and it doesn't matter.
Do we have to do our once a month like going
the
through
fear
both
corner?
Of our biggest fears? Yeah,
yeah. Well, it's like biting insects are a problem for me. I was looking at cool pictures of mantises are my favorite bug for sure, but I was looking at like some videos of longhorn beetles, grasshoppers. They were like mimicking moths that I was like, that's fucking cool. There's this moth that looks exactly like a big ass like hornet. It mimics so well that it just looks like a hornet. I was watching videos of like velvet ants. I could go on and on. In fact, I had recently as much as I'm like generally chill with bugs, I need to like assess the situation before I decide to be chill. I just remembered that this happened the other night. I was sweeping up the basement because we have we're very weird. We got super lucky with our house that we're renting because we have a finished basement. And I was sweeping up the basement and something fucking jumped at me.
Okay.
And I reacted so rapid. This is maybe the fastest I've ever gone into action in recent memory. But this thing fucking jumped at me. And I took the broom and I swatted at it so quick and so hard that I not only smashed it, just utterly obliterated this creature. It was a camel cricket, by the way.
Okay.
But I also snapped the fucking broom. Just completely destroyed the broom.
You just like busted this broom over a camel cricket?
I did. It was
all right.
And I'm sorry, like rest in peace to the camel crickets, poor little soul. They're completely harmless, but it scared me. It was so unexpected. I had headphones on. I'm just sweeping. I'm alone in the house, and bam, this giant fucking cricket just leaps at me.
It's like those videos of people getting pranked on YouTube where they're like, someone jumps out of a trash can and they turn around and just punch them in the face.
That's basically what happened. Yes.
It's just the immediate response,
Except I spread this cricket and its innards out across like a 2-foot radius. Yeah. Like I really fucked this thing up. So rest in peace, little cricket. I happen to know that there's more down there though, because I hear them when I go down there now. So
you killed one member of a family.
I guess so. And yeah, that's them mourning probably. So
yeah.
This is a long way to get to the point that I'm trying to fucking talk about. I was thinking about insect cryptids, right?
Okay. Oh yeah, we haven't even gotten to the fucking topic yet. Okay.
No, but that's okay.
All right.
We're leading up to it. And I felt like a little bit of regret because one of the things that came up was Jabba Fofi. And I was like, man, I really tortured Niall with that one way back in the day. It was time for me to put myself through a little bit of hell.
Okay.
this week we're going to talk about giant mosquito cryptids.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I don't think I knew this was a thing. I've not come across giant mosquitoes as a form of cryptid.
I didn't really
in my
either.
research.
Yeah, I mean, so we've like talked extensively about mantises, and mantises are another one of those things where it can toe the line between cryptid and alien because there are the mantis alien people as well. But mosquito sits firmly in the spot of some of my favorite like cryptid things, which is like it's built off of a mythology. It has like a historical sort of like origin. But like also on the other hand, I don't like blood-sucking creatures that bite and sting and suck your fucking blood. That is my hell. I am especially juicy, it seems, because mosquitoes absolutely tear me up when I am in their vicinity. If I put bug spray on, I'm just like a walking feast for mosquitoes.
So, yeah, you just radiate snack energy to bugs.
Thank you.
It's
And not just bugs, some people too, I've found, but mostly bugs. And here's the thing. I don't see them do the deed when they're sucking my blood, which is why I don't have an abject fear of mosquitoes all the time. However, if I do catch them doing it, then it like sends a chill down my spine. Like this thing is fucking taking my life essence out of my body as we speak, and I slap the shit out of that thing. Like I do not like mosquitoes. I think they're fucked up little monsters. And so I was like, all right, it looks like there's a handful of stories of giant mosquito cryptids. So I'm gonna do and you know what? I think that with insects generally, it's not hard to make the leap to the idea of what if this fucker was huge?
Yeah, what if it was big?
What if it was really big?
Yeah, it's fun that we're doing this episode as I have like a giant mosquito bite directly on my knee. That like whenever I flex my knee, it just like you can feel it. It's
nice.
This is very timely.
Yeah, that's a meaty ass bite for sure. Niall, our first creature that I discovered personally.
How many fucking giant mosquito creatures are there?
I'm going to go ahead and say that there's 2.5.
Okay.
The half explanation will come later.
All right.
But our first creature is a monstrous mosquito known as the Everesborough gallinipper.
Wait, say that one more time.
Everesborough gallinipper.
Gallinipper. Okay.
Yeah. Now, Everesborough, its first name, not its surname. Everesborough is what it's named after. It was a town. It was a pretty thriving town during the 1800s in North Carolina.
Okay.
It had a population of about 600, and it was a pretty good focal point for a lot of things. By the mid 1800s, so like 1860, there were people who were transporting stuff through it. I guess tar, pitch, and turpentine. Corn and cotton would be brought through there. They had like rivers that ran through and rafts that would come through carrying this stuff. They had an established academy, a Masonic lodge, 2 churches. It was a pretty happening place for the mid 19th century. Now, at the start of the Civil War, the town was a pretty major recruiting spot to bring in young, fresh Confederates for the county.
Okay.
So in 1865, of course, that's when war happens, and it comes through the town of Everesborough. It's named after some wealthy fucker named Averas, Averas. So they end up, having 30,000 or so Federals fighting 6,000 Confederates between the Black River and the Cape Fear River.
Okay.
In the area.
Smoking a big cigar in a movie theater on that river. I'm into
Yes,
it.
which
All right.
the Cape.
You ever seen that movie?
I haven't, but it's on my list.
Oh, it's so fucking good. I've only seen the Scorsese, like that version, not the original, not the Brando version. But man, that movie fucking rules.
Yes, it's on my list of things to watch for sure. And Cape Fear is sort of the central location for a lot of the galley nipper activity, apparently. So, war comes through this town. It's fucked up, of course. And that is one reason why there was sort of because, spoiler alert, Averisboro does not exist anymore. It's like barely a trace of it is left.
Okay.
War comes through, and then during Reconstruction, after the war, there's also some serious Ku Klux Klan activity in the area.
Of course.
And these were the factors that sort of ended up leading to the town falling apart. There was actually a government informant who would secretly attend Klan meetings in that area and then report on it. And, so federal marshals are being sent down to bust it up, and many of the Klansmen flee and relocate far, far away from Averisboro, sometimes as far as Texas. And then by 1887, there was the Southern Railway that was attracting people away from the town. And so now, as North Carolina History, the website puts it, only a cemetery surrounded by a grove and a Civil War museum remind anyone passing through that a port town existed.
Okay.
So this is where the Averisboro galley nipper gets its name. But it's generally like when people talk about where this thing comes from, they talk about Cape Fear. So Averisboro was like on the eastern bank of the Cape Fear River. And it was, it eventually led to being a profitable timber area. Swamplands also were a good spot for timber.
Yeah.
And we're going to reconnect to this thread at the end with my half mosquito monster story. But lumber crews who were working in this area pretty quickly learned that mosquitoes in the woods around Averisboro were pretty big and pretty nasty.
Okay. So if this comes out of like loggers and stuff, is there some line in the sand between like fearsome beasts and cryptids in terms of like history? Do you know?
So fearsome critters are a thing that I'm going to get briefly into at the end of this episode.
Okay. Then I'll hold off. This is just like the time period you're talking about is not that dissimilar to some of the stuff that I've read in regards to fearsome critters and everything, and logging crews just immediately puts me in that mindset.
Yes, that's the sort of half cryptid that I'm going to get into, because there is a fearsome critter mosquito creature.
Okay.
With a couple of short stories associated with it. But the galley nipper specifically seems to have somewhat different origins, although I have a feeling that, lumberjack tall tales did intermingle here. Now, nobody, as far as I could tell, has done the research to say, all the origin points of, here's where all of the different stuff conforms into the galley nipper myth. But I think it would be a safe assumption to make that's part of where it came from, but there's other places too.
So you're telling me you don't have a full historical genealogy of how the lore of the galley nipper came to be?
Not exactly, but I bet you almost anything, somebody out there has done the research to determine the intermingling. So I don't want to get ahead of myself too much here, but what I'm talking about is the intermingling of these lumberjack tall tales, which, for people who don't know, we did an episode on this a few years ago, fearsome critters, which are like these tall tales told by lumberjacks that they're kind of cryptid-esque. They're like these beastly creatures that, were tales to explain phenomenon in the forest and also give excuses to drink on the job and all this stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes just to scare people.
And sometimes just to scare people. And like a lot of it was like making like kind of freaking out of towners and things like that. So I think probably there has to be somebody who has done the research to find that mythos plus African American folklore plus Native American mythology, all three of those things have probably intermingled to create some of these things. Because when I looked into the Gallinipper, they don't mention fearsome critters. They mention African American folklore and Native American legends. So it's possible that maybe fearsome critter stories were it's not possible. Definitely fearsome critter stories were inspired by Native American legends. We can pretty much say that that's true. So it's all there.
Okay.
So what is the Gallinipper? Well, the Gallinipper is a mosquito that is said to be, in many cases, as big as a hawk.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, not great. It's in certain stories, it's said that it's the sting that it can deliver through its, giant proboscis can actually just penetrate all the way through a person's arm.
Oh, God. So it can just like stab directly through your fucking arm.
It can go straight through your arm with its proboscis. And not only that, but if you are bitten by a Gallinipper, you could... it's likely you will die because the mosquito on this scale is said to be able to drain all of the blood from a person in one big suck.
Jesus. So this thing will just suck you bone dry, like immediately. Like you'll just be fucking. It's like someone taking down a Capri Sun in one gulp.
Yeah. If you've ever seen people do the Capri Sun challenge where they like fucking just try and suck that thing down as fast as they can, that's what you will be. You will be the Capri Sun. I don't know.
Okay. See, because I always remember, did you ever do that thing when you were a kid where like you would drink the Capri Sun and then you would like the straw was still in it and you would blow it up and then just like, I'm imagining them just doing that. I'm
aware of the practice, but frankly, that is not respecting the pouch. And we respected the pouch in my household.
In this household, we respect the pouch. We never stab through the bottom of the pouch with the straw by accident because we respect it.
Exactly. But your pouch will not be respected by the Gallinipper, that's for sure. So
my balls? What? No, I'm kidding. So look,
and the Gallinipper does go balls first. I forgot to mention.
How? So it can stab through my arm. That means like it can really do a number down.
Your
there.
sack is obliterated instantly.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, many people were terrified by stories of the Gallinipper. And the thing is, when you think about it, these areas in North Carolina all the way down to like Florida, those areas do get gigantic, monstrous, fucked up insects. And so it's not that big of a stretch of the imagination at the time to believe that a mosquito could reach the size of a fucking hawk. It's not that crazy.
Yeah, like I get that. Especially back then, we didn't have. Yeah,
I really mostly mean that's probably why they proliferated too. Is like there's a couple reasons, but that's probably why the story exists. Like remained extant to this day. So yeah, people were afraid of that, and basically, we have a story associated with the Gallinipper. That comes in the middle of the 19th century, sort of at the beginning of that time frame that I described a little bit ago. We had two different work crews, two sets of lumberjacks coming through the area. One was from Chatham County, and the other was from Averisboro. And they found themselves, working alongside cutting down trees and doing just, the general lumberjack things, taking like a stack of 5 pancakes and putting them on a single fork and then eating them in one bite, stuff like that.
Shaving with a rock.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Building, rafts made of logs and running on them in places. The logs kind of like spun underneath their feet. Just classic lumberjack maneuvers. And because they were working in the same area together, but they were from two different, like crews, there was a bit of a rivalry that happened, labor gang, essentially. And the leader of the Chatham County gang was a man named Red Saunders. Is that how you pronounce this name? Saunders? Is it Sanders or Saunders?
I believe that would be Saunders.
Okay. Red Saunders.
I thought you were going to say Red Santa, and I was like, why are you calling him Red Santa? Like
that's the North Pole equivalent of Red Skelton.
Oh, okay.
And Red Saunders is the
that was
Confederate version of Red Skelton.
Okay, I was waiting for the tie together because there are times that you just say something and I just agree with it.
Yeah,
even if it makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Just because I'm trying to yes and get the energy going and everything. But when you the Red Skelton, I had no idea what the fuck you were talking about. But yeah, we're good now. I know who Red Skelton is, though. My dad had a fucking Red Skelton DVD collection from Target that we got.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember watching Red Skelton. Like, they would play on... what channel was it? Where they would play, like, what were essentially infomercials, but they were infomercials that were interspersed with, like, actual, like, clips from the thing they were selling. Like, full clips.
The number of times I came downstairs to see my parents watching something like that, but about like an SNL collection or some musician's concert or like I would like Ken Burns stuff. Like the number of times I would come down and see my parents watching whatever channel that was basically glorified infomercials about that for like DVD box sets was strangely high.
Yeah, I would end up seeing some of that stuff because I'm pretty sure it was the same channel that I was watching the Three Stooges on. So I would like watch the Three Stooges and then that stuff would come up and it would I'm pretty sure I saw Red Skelton on that channel. So
yeah, there you go.
Red Saunders was long dead though at this time, so I didn't get to hear any of his jokes. I wonder if that's where I used
to watch the fucking Batman and the TV series from the 60s. I used to watch on one of those channels.
I think that's where I saw the Flying Circus too. I think. Oh. I'm pretty sure. Why can't I remember what channel it is? We don't have channels anymore. I don't even remember.
You don't. I've got YouTube TV, bitch. I got I still got cable.
That's
I don't know why I'm saying that like a status symbol. That was a weird energy to bring to this. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm all over the place today.
Look, I did in fact feel shame for not having cable, and after we're done recording here, I'm gonna get some sort of subscription. So
yeah, you gotta go. What? It's not cutting the cable. You gotta go mend the cable. I guess that's what we'd have to call it.
Yes,
get it. That's what we call when you get cable back after cutting the cord.
That's right. We're bringing it back. I'm tying the cable back together.
Jesus.
After I got switched over to Netflix and Hulu, I went out and cut all my cables.
Yeah.
That were trained into my house.
That must be why when I moved into this apartment, there were no fucking cables anywhere to hook up my internet.
I was like, what's the point of this shit? I've got Netflix and Hulu. I don't need these fucking cables anymore. Snip, snip. Yeah. See you later. Oh, shit. I got to get that fixed. Xfinity.
Yeah.
So
Comcast is so mad at you. Anyway, go ahead.
They have a bounty out for my head. So Red Saunders was the leader of the Chatham County gang, and he kind of didn't help ease tensions, to put it that way. Apparently, he was a bit of a braggart. He would boast about how strong he was. He was constantly showing off. And he would say things like, I'm not just the strongest man in this fucking swamp. I am probably the strongest man in North Carolina. Hell, maybe even the whole world.
Who's this guy cutting promos on? Like
other loggers, apparently.
Just like the crowd in general.
Yeah, and this is all a lead up to a lumberjack match. Yeah. So the Averisboro crew was getting annoyed by Red Saunders, and one day they're like, we've had enough, and they decided that they were going to get back at Red Saunders for being a braggadocious jerk. And so they go up to him and they say, yeah, okay, you seem tough. That's for sure. But there's one thing in this swamp that is much tougher than you. And that's
Shrek.
It's Shrek. Oh. And it's Shrek and his little pal donkey. And no, they say to him, the mosquitoes are tougher than you. And so they basically dare Saunders to take off his shirt, lie on the ground, and let the mosquitoes just go to town on his back for an hour straight.
An hour?
Yes.
Even just like regular mosquitoes, that's going to do some damage. Jesus.
Yeah. So Red Saunders is like, okay, whatever, guys. I can do anything. This is fucking nothing. So they go and they find a corner of the island that they're working on that has giant swarms of mosquitoes hovering above the water. And the other men that are there build like a small fire to create smoke, which would ward off the mosquitoes, and they just kind of shelter there. And then Red Saunders takes his shirt off, goes over towards the mosquitoes, lays face down in the mud, and just lets it happen. And apparently they went fucking nuts on Saunders' back.
Yeah.
They were sucking blood. It was an unbelievable fucking feast.
This is a true play stupid games, win stupid prizes fucking situation right here. Oh my God.
Yes. So, but apparently,
this guy's gonna catch malaria.
Yeah, he's gonna catch something. But he apparently laid there and just was like, oh wow. He is said to have said, quote, "I sure hope those mosquitoes over there ain't getting to be too much for y'all." Or no, I'm sorry. He would say that to the other men who were like sheltering in the smoke. And he just laid there face down, let it happen. And so at about 45 minutes in, something strange happened.
Okay.
Saunders felt something, a sudden intense pain in his back, a sharp, powerful pain, seared into his back, and one of the men who was huddled down by the smoke when this pain happened yelled out, "Galley nipper." And when Red heard that and felt that pain, he shot up he bolted upright and jumped into the water, and believing that he was staving off whatever the fuck the galley nipper was.
Okay.
And he comes out of the water and he's, covered in mud. He's covered in swamp water. He's covered in mosquito bites. And all the other men tell him, oh, wow, you are so lucky that you survived that because you were just attacked by the galley nipper. And that thing was the size of an eagle. It had landed on your back and bit you.
So, like, how did he... It really should look like he got stabbed in the back from this thing. Like, how... the size of the proboscis seems like it just has to have left, like, a fucking hole. Like, it looked like fucking Kung Pao. Like, what are we talking about?
Well, here's the thing. Red didn't know what had actually happened.
Oh, were the people playing a prank on him?
Yes.
Okay.
Apparently, as he was laying there, being braggadocious as ever, yelling to them, oh, I hope you're all doing okay with the mosquitoes over there, that group of men from the Avisboro crew threw a coal from the fire onto his back.
Oh.
And laughed at him as he jumped into the water. So after that, Saunders was a bit quieter.
Yeah, as you would be after you just got, like, burned by a hot coal by your coworkers.
But here's the thing. After that event, he started telling anybody who would listen that he's so tough that he survived an attack from a galley nipper. So he spread a story that the galley nipper bit him, and he didn't put up a fucking fuss. He toughed it out and survived. Even though
So is that Go ahead, sorry.
Even though this is a thing that is said to kill you when it sucks all your blood dry.
So is this a thing that, like, if you were a logger at this time, you knew about it and you knew that it was a prank that you played on the new guy? Or is this, like, what?
I think this is just a thing that they did to Saunders to get him back for being a dick. I don't think this was, like, some specific, like, oh, do you want to do the hour-long Mosquitoes hot coal prank? I think...
Yeah, we're gonna pull a galley nipper on fucking Jones, who just started on Tuesday.
No, I don't think it was that. I think it was just, like, this guy's a dick, and we're gonna fuck with him. And because...
I feel like there will come a time where one of these cryptids is just going to be a prank gone wrong that just, like, got out of hand, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's happened. Like, we've had true just, like, hoaxes before. But I mean, like, a prank that wasn't intended for mass audience that just kind of got out of hand. And you know, I'm waiting for it.
Yeah. We did have... what was it? Was it not the Snallygaster? There was one that I did... The Abaguchi, that was kind of a prank. I mean, it's a hoax, but the Abaguchi was a cryptid that was like... is a hoax a type of prank?
That's the thing. I think that comes because, like, a hoax feels like you're trying to make something that you made up believed by the world, whereas a prank is something you're playing on one person that then could get out, that then, like, could spread.
Could get out of hand.
Because there's, like, an intentionality in hoaxes that isn't there if you're pranking one person and it just gets out of hand, you know? So it's like this weird line that I don't know if this makes sense to anybody or actually matters at all, but is in my head for whatever reason.
Well, you could maybe kind of look at this one as sort of being a prank that went wrong and lived on, because they, in a local tavern in Averisboro, they put up this. Apparently, the story had gotten around enough that that tavern had put up what was effectively a bird skeleton, but instead of its beak, they had put, like, a long piece of carved bone to look like a proboscis, and they hung it up in the tavern and put a sign on it that said the Averisboro Galley Nipper. So they have which is, obviously insane given that it's an insect.
Yeah, that has a full skeleton.
Yes, exactly. So, but it's that's what this is a part of where this story came from.
Look, I this is a thing that I might, if I'm jumping ahead and I'm probing on your big question, then I'll stop. But what size broom or household implement do you think could take down a fucking galley nipper? That's fucking...
It's going to have to be industrial sized. I mean, it's going to have to be a big fucking, you're going to need a shovel sized.
I was thinking of a shovel, but I was also thinking of, like, this is one of those cases where having a big fucking axe or, whatever person, I was about to say weird person, but it's something that I would do. If you have a katana around the house, fucking just, like, slice that thing in half samurai style, I think that'd be great.
Now, I would say hold your horses, because this does kind of play into my big question.
Okay.
So we can talk more about
for now.
Dispatching the galley nipper eventually.
All this means is now I'm thinking of fun implements. So we'll keep going.
Now, interestingly, the galley nipper is not just, folklore and cryptid stories. There's actually a real live species of mosquito that is known to be larger than usual and especially aggressive, native to southeastern United States. It is called the Saurophora ciliata, and the common name that it gets referred to is the American galley nipper. So there's a real life mosquito that's named after this. Yes. which I can't think of too many stories where a sort of cryptid folkloric thing becomes a real life species.
It's like discovering a species of bear in the woods and calling it the like Eastern American Bigfoot. Like,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
this thing's gone mainstream.
Yeah, it's honestly great. I think it would be kind of cool to name more creatures after cryptids. Like, honestly.
Yeah, really just like frustrate the fuck out of cryptozoologists out there by like just naming actual creatures after cryptids so that just screws up their entire convention.
Yes. Now, there's other sort of sources that do not actually say the name galley-nipper that suggest that maybe these stories of giant mosquitoes in the area come from Native American stories. Okay. The first one comes from the Tuscarora. They were an Iroquoian people, and they basically ended up settling in North Carolina around 500 CE. They were sort of driven. The Tuscarora were driven out of the area by colonial expansion. And basically pushed out through like Cape Fear. And so by the 18th century, they had kind of left North Carolina. But one of the chiefs of the Tuscarora, named Elias Johnson, which I don't know if that's his real... I don't know what that name came from. That just doesn't sound like... I don't know. That doesn't sound right. But apparently this guy was named Elias Johnson.
Okay.
It just reads like a colonial settler called this person Elias Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think so.
But there was a chronicler of this guy was a chronicler of the tribe's history and lore, and he, in his chronicles, wrote about a mosquito that was as large as a man. And the mosquito creature was called Roteo. And in his account, he says this, quote, "It flew about with vast wings, making a loud noise, with a long stinger, and on whomsoever it lighted, it sucked out all the blood and killed him. Many warriors were destroyed in this way, and all attempts to subdue it were in vain."
Many warriors were destroyed in this way is a fucking hard bar.
Yes.
Like, all right.
Yeah.
So this we're now up to a human-sized mosquito that will also just suck you dry immediately.
Yes, and people sort of see there isn't like a direct connection to this and the galley-nipper, but it's like I just think that the area has especially fucked up mosquitoes, so it makes sense that there would be this lore surrounding mosquitoes all the way back to this tribe.
Okay.
And apparently the way the story goes is that the Roteo was eventually shot by an arrow and pierced in the heart. And when it was pierced in the heart, it basically just spawned mosquitoes as we know them today. So I don't know if it like fell apart or exploded, but it just like when this giant mosquito man was shot, it became all mosquitoes.
Okay, so like by the fucking... It did the like Final Fantasy ooze type thing where you bust it and just a bunch of little ones come out.
Yes,
okay.
yes. There is a very similar Cherokee version of this story. The difference is that it was a giant wasp called Ulagu, and it's very simple. It's like the ending is exactly the same, but the lead up to it is different. It's like this is a giant wasp that would like swoop down and pick up kids and carry them away and take them to a cave. It was written about this legend, quote, "The hunters built fires around the hole of the cave so that smoke filled and smothered the great insect, and multitudes of the smaller ones escaped and increased until now yellow jackets, which were before unknown, are all over the world." So killing this giant wasp created all of the wasps.
Huh. Okay.
It's like, it's honestly like, it's an interesting sort of like origin folk tale about like why there's all these like many little creatures. Like, I don't know. I like these stories that it's like,
yeah, it's a fun piece of folklore of like where this stuff came from. But I also, then you have to ask, where'd the big one come from?
It's true. It's true. Now, here's the other thing that I couldn't find as much on. mostly because it was in books that I don't have access to. But so the Iroquois and the Cherokee legends and the Lumberjacks all definitely were contributors to giant mosquito mythology in the area, but there were other sources that attributed it to African American folklore.
Okay.
So in the more African American folklore side of things, it's again a giant mosquito, but this is like worse. This thing is said to have been so big that their bones, again, I don't know why the mosquito here has bones, but it could it could destroy a 140 acre field.
Oh shit, like one of them?
I guess so. There's like a very short story where apparently this creature, this giant mosquito, had its trunk in a tree, and when it was trying to like loosen itself from the tree and get out, it managed to just clear 140 acres of land, struggling to pull itself out of this tree.
That makes no sense.
It's it's legend blown up to an incredible scale. It's just very similar. Yeah.
I don't know how you go that far afield, but okay.
I don't know.
Look, it really just in thrashing around, it moshed a fucking whole field to death. All right.
Yeah. But Galley Nipper, the stories of the Galley Nipper were put into minstrel shows and also ended up in American blues songs. The one that I found was listed was Mosquito Moan by Blind Lemon Jefferson in 1929. So there is an African-American folklore side to this that I had much less information about, unfortunately.
Okay.
But that is the Galley Nipper. We have 1.5 other giant mosquito things that we're going to get into here. And they'll go a little bit quicker. So a lot of this information came from Atlas Obscura. I found a creature called the Adze. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, unfortunately, but that's how it's spelled, Adze. So the Adze is a creature said to be found in Togo and Ghana. And it's an insect that is said to be able to slip into households through keyholes, through like cracks in windows, around doors. And what they do, as they appear as these insects, notably, they bring up specifically beetles, mosquitoes, but also fireflies. They go in and they prey on people and drink their blood, but most of all, they enjoy the blood of children.
All right.
So,
yeah. Okay.
This is a story that is told by the Ewe people of West Africa, and it is, I guess, a legend that they're pretty afraid of. And it's interesting because the story of the Adze is, it's terrifying in that there is no way to fight the Adze. There's no way to cure the attack from the Adze. It's pretty much, if you get taken by one, you're gonna end up sick or dead.
Okay, one shot, one kill. Gotcha.
Yeah, you
Those
can't.
things will take you out.
You can't do anything about it, which is a pretty interesting, a very interesting take to have on a sort of like monster legend thing. So what this creature will do is it will either drain its victim of its life or it will possess them. And in being possessed by the Adze, you'll either go crazy or just be stuck in endless misery forever after this thing takes you. And what was interesting is the person who wrote the article for Atlas Obscura was like trying to contact some historians and people who knew about the Ewe people of West Africa. And they got in touch with a couple people, but it was all it was interesting. So one of the UA professors that they talked to, who was based out of the United States, said, quote, "I've come across Adze, but only as a witch. Witches in this culture are real, not mythical." And when they asked for more comment on that, he didn't respond. Now, we don't have a good idea of where this story first began. We know that the UA people were settled in the west coast of Africa, in Ghana and Togo around the 13th century, and this is why I think it has such a like fatal story to it, is that it's believed that maybe the Adze's tale originated as a means of explaining diseases like malaria or other insect-borne diseases that could just take you at a moment's notice and kill you and things like that, and cause you terrible suffering.
Okay. So if the guy was saying it was a witch, is it like the witch that's causing these illnesses in people? Is that what they're saying?
I guess so. So it's like a shape-shifting witch almost that turns into an insect. Gotcha. I think it's just like we didn't, there wasn't a good explanation for why this insect bite or whatever would cause you to become sick and die in such a terrible way. And this is the explanation for it, I suppose. So in the 1800s, Christian missionaries from Europe came through and established colonies, of course, in West Africa. And this is where it seems the Adze became this like scapegoat for all kinds of evil. Notably, there would be personal problems, cosmic evils, biological evils. If you were being jealous, if you had, mental illness, or your luck was bad, you were addicted to something, you couldn't even conceive, you couldn't conceive a child, any negative problem was attributed to the Adze possession. I'm trying to remember because we sort of covered something similar to this, and I'm trying to remember what I'm thinking of. But this is an idea that I think pervades a lot of cultures around the world, where like it's effectively a boogeyman for negative situations. It's a thing that comes up. It's almost like the thing that I was talking about with the powwow in the Christian mysticism powwow stuff. It's kind of like that creature in a way, I think. So, okay. Brian P. Levesque of the University of Texas, in the book New Perspectives on Witchcraft, Magic, and Demonology, Witchcraft in the Modern World, basically says that when the UA people were sort of the intermingling of the teachings of these Christian missionaries between their beliefs, they did not just, give up their religion, the Vodun or spirit. It would sort of, which actually this is where I guess some voodoo comes from in the Americas. They didn't just like, Christianity didn't just supplant their belief system. Instead, it just kind of got combined, which is a lot like how it happened with the old Roman Catholic Germans and whatnot that came in and ended up doing powwow in the Americas, which was a different episode. But it's a similar idea where like it's not like you just give up on your ways, you combine them.
Okay.
So Levesque writes, the UA Christians kept their old faith and fears and put the Christian good on top. And so the Adze you could kind of think of as being comparative to the devil. Okay. So the Atlas Obscura article, they like reached out to a member of the UA tribe to kind of get some information about the Adze. And that person, I guess, canceled hours before the interview and said in an email, "I've had a bad dream the night after I agreed to talk to you about the Adze. I've been trying to pray about it since I'm a Christian to get some directions from God. Unfortunately, I will not be able to move ahead with the interview. I hope you understand." So it seems it's taken pretty seriously. One of the weird aspects of the Adze is that women, I guess, are more susceptible to being possessed by the adzi, more frequently than men, at least. So it's very strange. Like if you're infertile or if you have a temper, you have an adzi. Like a woman who has a temper is possessed by an adzi.
Okay.
And
the fact that the two categories that you gave were infertile and has a temper is some interesting designations for this thing. All right.
yes, an anthropologist named Mira Venkatachalam, oh man, I did not pronounce that right, worked for a decade in the field among the Yue people and wrote about it in a text called Slavery, Memory, and Religion in Southeastern Ghana. And she says that the encounter with women being accused of being possessed by the adzi was common. And she said, quote, "The adzi was a widespread spiritual problem, and adzi attacks were steady and relentless." So like I said, you can't like actually fight this thing. It just it's basically impossible to fight, and it's impossible to, to handle in the way that you might like fucking kill a giant mosquito beast in North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's believed.
So like a big shovel would not help with this thing. Okay.
Well, maybe because what you can do, one of the things that you can do, but apparently it's extremely difficult. But the legend the legend says that a way to defeat it is to force it out of its host, and when you do, it'll be in this semi-human form. And when it's in that form, it's this hunchbacked creature with talons and jet black skin. And what you have to do is when it's in that form, you have to kill it. So maybe you could use a shovel for that. I don't know.
Okay, so you just have to make it vulnerable by getting it out of its host. Okay.
Yeah, but of course it's extremely fast and very dangerous and can kill you. It can kill you back, so you gotta move fast with that shovel or that fly swatter, whatever you want.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: after the Christian invasion of Africa, one of the other methods to defeat the adzi is praying.
Okay, the power of prayer. Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's.
I was hoping you were at least going to say like exorcism or something, like at least something interesting. But if you're just supposed to pray about it, sure, whatever.
Yeah. So Mira, the anthropologist, also wrote in her book, talks about how she saw many frequent, quote, deliverance sessions aimed at expelling adzi and potential witches from congregations, which took the form of intensive prayer sessions and exorcisms.
Okay, so we do get exorcisms.
Yes, it is
Which
there.
I guess is really just, if you think about it, exorcism is just intense praying.
It is very intense praying. It's like fucked up praying, honestly.
Yeah, it's just intense praying with a splash zone. Like that's all an exorcism really is.
Yeah, prayer is like a single target effect, whereas exorcism, it has an AOE.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
So, yeah, I just thought this one was really interesting because it does start out talking that it like takes the form. It's like a vampiric creature that takes the form of a mosquito, but it's like basically a devil demon creature, but it's also sort of synonymous with witches and witchery. So like if you're possessed by the adzi, you are a witch, and it just is like the cause of all negative influence in a person's life.
It's just the scapegoat for the entire community.
It's very strange. Like other things that I found that were like, you are possessed by an adzi, would be women with brothers whose brothers' children fared better than their own child.
Okay.
And old people, if the young around them started dying and the old people remained alive. And the poor, if they envied the rich. So those were other ways that you could be said to be possessed by the adzi.
So this is like a fucking social contagion more so than anything. Like this is just like, if you're not doing too great, you're probably, if your life's not turned out the way you thought it was, you're probably an adzi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But it does seem to come from this whole, we need an explanation for malaria and the bite of the mosquito. And then it morphs into, especially after Christians come in and fuck everything up, it morphs into a catch-all boogeyman for all negative things. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now let's wrap this up a little bit. The last thing I wanted to talk about before we're done is a creature, or should I say critter, called the Skeet-a-roo.
Fantastic. A great way to end the episode.
So
tell me about the Skeet-a-roo, Kyle.
This is from the fearsome critter mythology in the 1922 book Yarns of the Big Woods by Art Childs, which, if you want to learn more about that, just go check out our episode on fearsome critters. But they're lumberjack tall tales. And what I found is in the actual text Yarns of the Big Woods, there was like a note next to this story. So I'll just read this note that they put next to the story. That was essentially on the portrayal on Childs' portrayal of Native Americans. So it says here, introverted, standoffish, and curt, Childs' portrayal of a Native American rehashes much of the worn-out stereotyping common for its time, just as it is today. Unlike the guide or tenderfoot, Quasin, which is the character in the story, Quasin's moniker is the Indian, a label used to overemphasize what he is and obscure who he is. While it may go without saying that simplifying people to the point of error should be laid to rest. For the record, no credibility can be lent to the notion to know one is to know all, and the very idea is more mythical than anything you will read on this site.
Okay.
So they just were like, yeah, this is a bad stereotype Native American man. So in this short story. So here's the actual story itself in Yarns of the Big Wood. Quasin, the old Indian, stalked into the camp to see his friend, the guide. The tenderfoot was introduced to the red-skinned visitor. By the way, remarked the guide to the tenderfoot, do you see those big scars on Quasin's arm and neck? That's the work of the billed mosquito. Tell us about it, Quasin. The Indian grunted but remained silent. Long time since I've seen any Skeet-a-roos, continued the old guide. But years ago, this country used to be full of them. They grew as big as chickens and had a bill about 6 or 8 inches long and as hard as steel. They kept them sharper than needles with 2 little 2-handed grindstones they had rigged up on the banks of the creek. Tell them about the time a whole flock tackled you, Quasin. No, you tell him, requested the Indian gravely. Well, one time when Quasin was coming down Fish Creek in his canoe, a flock of them come at him, so he hurried to the banks of the stream, hauled his canoe out, turned it over, and got under it. The Skeet-a-roos lit all over the canoe and pierced it full of holes with their sharp bills. Quasin, to save himself, took a rock and clinched their bills underneath until, all of a sudden, the Skeet-a-roos flew away with his canoe. Isn't that so, Quasin? The Indian grunted solemnly.
Okay.
So
these things have beaks.
Yeah.
Not proboscis. They just have razor sharp beaks that they hone on stones.
I don't know if I don't know if the word proboscis was common. Yeah, I don't know when that word was but I do think that they mean the proboscis of a mosquito here. They were strong enough and big enough that they could carry away this man's canoe. So
wow.
The Skeet-a-roo is a fearsome critter, and it appeared in these lumberjack tales. One of the legends says that this lumberjack was lost in Arkansas, and so he went up a hill to try and figure out where he was to reorient himself. And when he came back to where he had originally left to go up the hill, his horse wasn't there, and 2 Skeet-a-roos ate that horse and chomped the saddle and spat the horseshoes out.
Okay.
In another version of the story, the giant mosquitoes completely devour a cow and then brush their teeth with the cow's horns. An American salesman and another man named Daniel were out looking for this cow, and they started walking around this swamp, and soon they heard the bell of a cow, and they walked to go see it. And when they arrived, they found a dead cow with a mosquito standing on 2 feet on it, shaking the bell to call the other cows and make them basically draw them in so you could eat them as well. The mosquitoes, I guess, looked more like raccoons because they had claws, And if they kicked a cow, they could pierce the heart of it.
What?
I don't know. That's just a part of the story. I guess that this is a mosquito with claws.
Yeah. Okay.
And then finally, there's the story of Bill Jenkins, who is the largest man in Arkansas, who supposedly got up at night and 2 mosquitoes grabbed him and carried him away. These mosquitoes started to talk to each other and discuss whether or not they should hide him in the swamp, but they decided not to because bigger mosquitoes would steal their prey from underneath them. Then finally...
Okay, so this story just like drops a whole like culture and self-awareness on these mosquitoes that we have not had so far in the story.
Yeah.
These
Suddenly
things
they're
have, like,
chatting.
Functioning brains in society.
Yeah. Yes. And they're discussing on what to do with poor Bill Jenkins.
Jesus. Okay.
Then the final little story I have here says that a man hid 2 mosquitoes under a cauldron, and they started to make holes in the cauldron with their beaks to escape. And the man pulled away their prickles so they wouldn't escape, but the mosquitoes then flew away with the cauldron and the man.
Okay.
So those are just the short little stories that would get told and wrapped up in this fearsome critter mythology of the Skeet-a-roo. And I have a feeling that the Skeet-a-roo is not a far cry from the Gallinipper, and the Adze is kind of in its own territory. But those were the giant mosquito stories that I was able to find for this episode, Niall.
Damn. All right. That really kind of stretched the gamut there. I ran the gamut, I guess. It from like witches transforming into curses for people into like fucking just big old mosquitoes, and then a little bit of folklore. I like it.
I love that shit. I'm all about that. And it's always got this little history thing behind it too, that little kernel that I always like to find. And so I had fun with this. I had more fun with this than I expected because I do fucking hate mosquitoes and all bloodsuckers, frankly.
You've turned into a bit of a history buff.
We keep saying it. It's so true.
Yeah. If I keep saying it, it'll just get more and more true over time.
Exactly. So Niall,
because people cite this podcast now.
I know that's it's thing that has fucking happened. Weird. We're cited in like 3 articles for some reason, and I can't stress enough. We are not a reliable source for anything, really. I mean, look, we do our research, but like, we're sometimes
none of it is firsthand.
No.
We're all like, yeah,
and sometimes we're just citing. Sometimes we're just delivering stories that are being cooked up by just people saying bullshit. So
like total liars.
So it's not a great source, but you know, it is nice to know that there's people out there listening to the show and being like, I gotta mention this in my upcoming fucking article for British tabloid so and so. So I guess I appreciate that, but also give us an email or ring us up. Like, come on, let us know. I had to do a very I occasionally do a Google of our show to see if we're like popping up anywhere, and it's because of this. I do this once a year to see what's happened, and it's like, I don't know why, but we ended up in articles. So shouts out, but we had no fucking clue until we looked it up. So Anyways, Niall, you did manage to stumble directly into my big question.
Look, it's bound to happen sometimes.
I guess it was too obvious of a direction, but I'm going to do it anyways. Niall, what would your weapon of choice be to dispatch a mosquito as big or bigger than a hawk?
Okay. Any limits on this, or can I guess, have a fucking howitzer?
I guess
because look, there's a lot of answers you could go with here. It's a wide range of objects that I could use, but I feel like there is something to be said about the something that is just intended for the purpose. Have you ever seen those fucking like salt shotgun things?
Yes.
I want a big one of those.
Yeah.
Like, I want whatever size of that would be equal in proportion to the size of mosquito I'm going
like
after.
Like a salt RPG?
Yeah, like it's basically gonna be shooting out like the like Morton's like cylindrical things of salt. Like
yes.
those are basically going to be the charges to
Yes.
this thing. I'm going to load them in the back of this and fucking shoot out an
You
entire.
could make
Morton's
like a
salt
potato
container.
gun style thing, but with
Yeah.
Morton's salt, Morton's bulk salt shakers.
You just fucking perforate the top of it so it'll explode on impact and like tear open and just fucking take out the thing. Yeah.
It's honestly incredible because this is one of the only weapons that I would be able to conceive of that would not only protect you from mosquito cryptids, but also malevolent spirits.
Yeah, true. You can just like you got to shoot one of these up directly at your like ceiling in the center of the ceiling of a room, and it'll explode into a perfect circle around the edges of your room.
I was gonna say you could try rocket jumping.
Oh yeah. Yeah, if you can like rocket jump like TF2 soldier class, just fucking you'll be safe from all spirits.
Yes, beautiful. I'm a simple man and I have a simple answer. Flamethrower.
Oh, you weren't going with like salt fucking gun?
No,
okay.
but here's the thing. I like the salt gun. I just want to look like McCready in the Thing, mowing down giant mosquitoes with a flamethrower.
Yeah,
that's really it's as simple as that. It would have been maybe funnier to say like a giant gag fly swatter would be funny.
No, see, what's funny is to try to figure out how does a mosquito deal with the Thing? Because the whole thing, like the movie The Thing is based around like they find out about the blood test because every whatever comes out of the Thing creature is actually just the same. It's all the same matter,
Yeah.
So like, can a mosquito suck up the Thing and then would it get overtaken, or how would that work?
That's a good question, and I think we're gonna have to explore that in the upcoming sequel. The Thing 2. It's the mosquitoes.
The Thing 2, fucking malaria madness. There we go.
The Thing 2, Skeet-a-roo.
Yeah, okay, that's better. Yeah, we'll go with that. Thing 2, Skeet-a-roo.
Oh, fuck. Well, that's beautiful, and I really like your
sometimes
salt
it
gun.
takes till the very end to get that title for the episode, and today, that's one of them. So
beautiful. Well, Niall, that's been the story of giant mosquito cryptids. Are you ready to move on to some business?
Yeah, so if you want to find us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers, from Google Play to Apple Podcast to Spotify. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're probably there.
Twitch.tv/ItGetsWeird. We streamed this last weekend. We're going to be streaming again here in the near future, and that's a promise. So follow us there if you want to see me play some games, often with Colin, but we got other streams we want to do in the future too. itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. What insect at hawk size would fuck you up mentally? Please email us. Let us know. Because there's a lot of insects that I think would qualify for that. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $2 tier and a $5 tier. At the $2 tier, you get access to the show It Gets Weird TV. But right now, we're towards the back end of X-Files Season 1. And we get together and discuss the show, watch it together, and talk about other things related to the show or whatever the hell we feel like saying. And that comes out every other week at the $2 tier. At the $5 tier, you get access to It Gets Weird TV plus another bonus show in the off week of It Gets Weird TV. So you're getting bonus content every single week at the $5 tier. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday, and you get access to the Discord where we're hanging out talking with listeners of the show. Side note, and I feel like I probably should have said this a long time ago, but if you got this far to the episode and you listened to us discuss our spiel with Discord and Patreon, I don't know what it is. I've had an issue with the Patreon Discord connectivity for so long now. So if you can't get access to the Discord, just shoot us a message on Patreon after you donate or whatever. I try to reach out to everybody who donates and send them a link to join, but I think people maybe aren't seeing that. So if you don't get access to the Discord, you should get a message from me saying, hey, here's a link. And if you don't get that link or it's expired, just message us through the Patreon. We can hook you up. So this is just a reminder that I absolutely should have done a while ago. So if that's an issue that you're running into, just please reach out. We can get you hooked up. And also notably, if you do donate to the show, but eventually you have to, I got to save some money this month. I'm not donating right now. I don't kick you out of the Discord. I think that the connectivity between Patreon and Discord would kick you out. I don't do that. If you've donated to us, you're as good as in forever, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're not a fucking weirdo. And I say that in a bad way, not a good way. So point is, if you donate and you want access to the Discord and you don't get it in your inbox, just let me know through Patreon, please. Anyways, sorry. So we also have a $1 tier. You don't get anything out of that. You're just saying, hey, I like your show. Here's a tip. Here's $1 a month. Thanks for doing what you do. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening and continuing to support the show. I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle, signing out.